Selamat siang. Welcome to the latest news from Bali and Indonesia. This is June 6, 2022, and my name is Bruce. A lot of stuff today to talk about. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit it all into 20 minutes. Let's take a look at the weather first. The weather is, well, a little overcast. There was rain yesterday 2 or 3 times. Some pretty intense rain. Didn't last very long, but it was going on and off all day. And right now the wind speed is 13.7 kilometers per hour. The temperature is 30.5 degrees Celsius in Singaraja, and the humidity is 65%. And as I'm about to say something, I can see here comes a prowess. Traditional boat here, sampan jukung. The kids have been going out. I don't know, this guy's been coming up, a couple of these guys coming up and picking up the kids here and taking them out for joyrides along the coast for 10,000 rupiahs. Yes, that's right, 10,000 rupiahs, less than $1. And the kids have been going up and down and looking for dolphins and doing all sorts of stuff, really enjoying it. And, well, I guess the guy puts about 9 kids in there. And so he's making 90,000 for less than an hour. So I guess that's not bad. Okay, before we get into things, here is something interesting. If you've been following this channel, you know that I've been talking about going out not wearing a mask and having people kind of give me strange looks. This weekend, a public service announcement came out from the Bulawayo regional government telling people you don't have to wear a mask anymore if you're outdoors and you're not in a crowded area. So this is 3 weeks after the president made this announcement, and now the local government, the Regency, has just released some information. Maybe that is why people are still been wearing masks and giving me kind of strange looks when they see me walk around. I love this country. You never know what's going to happen next. Okay, let's take a look at the numbers first. Numbers are stable, and new national cases 388, national recoveries 204, and national deaths 5. Bali new cases 15, Bali recoveries 7, and Bali deaths 0. So we are remaining stable, and that is good news. Would it be nice to see the numbers go down to 0? Yeah, is that ever going to happen? Probably not. But this is good shape. Good shape. So the numbers are a good thing to be pumped about. So what is the main story today? The main story is Pak Luhut making some comments about Borobudur, and, well, it has let off this intense reaction on social media from local people, Indonesians, and foreigners as well, for and against what I'm going to talk about in a minute. And, well, the sad thing about this is the foreigners here, so they're arguing about this, just like the Indonesia, except they love attacking each other. I don't know why it is. This is why I don't hang out with foreigners in Indonesia. If they don't agree with somebody, boy, they just go after them. People calling each other idiots and other things just because they made a comment that was factually wrong. So this has set off a firestorm, and the early press reports misinterpreted or only really focused on part of what Pak Luhut said. And so I'm going to get to that and go through the original Instagram post that people, well, they didn't pay much attention to, apparently. Some people said, especially foreigners, oh, this is fake news. It's not fake news. It's just not complete news reporting. Somebody was not doing their job, or they just jumped on stuff they didn't see or go through the original comments completely. I don't know why, but the news was not fake. It was only partial. And so what is it that Pak Luhut said? Minister to limit daily visitors to Borobudur Temple to 1,200. So the regulations limiting visitors numbers has come with a new tariff, and entrance tickets, $100 or around 1.4 million rupees for foreign tourists and 750,000 for domestic tourists. The key word here, it says entrance. Okay, this is what is going to be the controversial part of all this, and this reporting here is actually wrong. According to the quote on Pak Luhut, and they took this from his Instagram page, we also agreed to limit the tourist quota to 1,200 people per day at the cost of $100 for foreign tourists and $750,000 for domestic tourists. For students, we only charge them 5,000 rupees. Wow, there's a huge difference. Pak Luhut said that the step has been carried out solely for the sake of preserving the historical and cultural wealth of the country. All tourists will also have to use a local tour guide from Borobudur or nearby, he added. He said they're doing this to provide more local jobs and also a sense of belonging in the region so that a sense of responsibility for the historical sites can continue to thrive in the future younger generation. According to this article, the government is also working with several parties to develop the new concept of Borobudur Temple as an international heritage conservation laboratory. Okay. Pak Luhut reaffirmed the synergy between conservation and tourism parties through a single authority agency that's meant to enhance the quality of Borobudur Temple as a tourist destination. And starting Saturday, the other day, a trial of electric shuttle buses for tourism vehicles has been launched, and the buses will go from Malioboro in Jogja to Borobudur and Prambanan. Okay, I can never pronounce that. Okay, so this is the first story. Notice that the emphasis here was on the price increase, not the limiting of people to 1,200 a day. Second article. Borobudur Temple tickets, rupees 750,000 for domestic tourists, UGM, University of Gajah Mada, lectures Stupidity. The government's plan to impose new tariff for Borobudur Temple entrance tickets for domestic tourists, 750,000, has drawn criticism from a number of circles. And notice they said entrance tickets again in this article, and that's what we're going to get to next. From the perspective of protecting cultural heritage, Professor of History at Gajah Mada University, Professor Dr. Sri Margana, agreed that limiting the number of visits for preservation of a heritage that's 1,000 years old is good, and I agree completely. As an anthropologist, back in my day anyway, not sure if they're still doing this, had to do what was called the four fields. We had to study the four fields, one of which was archaeology. Preservation archaeology I did a couple of classes on, and so it's important, and we're going to get back to that in a minute. According to the professor, visitor restrictions are also necessary because every year the number of tourists in Borobudur is increasing in a limited area, so visitors cannot enjoy their visit comfortably. And well, I've heard that there were lots and lots of people packed in there. Now, I only went to Borobudur one time. That was back in 1996. I went early in the morning. There was only a high school group there ahead of me waiting to get in. My guide that I had picked up outside the hotel said, we got to go tomorrow morning real early, boss, otherwise it's going to be really full. So we got there before they opened. We had to wait a little bit. The high school kids were there. We had fun, them practicing their English, me practicing my Indonesian. It was a good trip. Borobudur is something you should see if you can afford these new prices. But the professor did not agree with the plan to increase ticket prices for domestic tourists up to $750,000 rupees. He said restricting visits by inadvertently increasing tickets is a trick, wanting to protect the object but not wanting to reduce the income. He offered two solutions to limiting visits instead of increasing ticket prices to hundreds of thousands of rupees. There's still a wiser way, namely by limiting the visit quota, especially in the morning for group visitors, by making a reservation in advance, or regulate the flow of visitors in such a way that it does not damage the heritage. For example, distinguishing tickets for those who want to go up to the temple or just walk around the temple, and we're going to get to that in just a second. The Association of the Indonesian Tours and Travel Agencies, ASIDA Central Java, deeply regrets the plan to implement the new tariff for entrance tickets to Borobudur Temple area. According to the Central Java advisor for ASIDA, he said that the increase is too expensive. He said the price increase will be burdensome to local tourists and also will cut the business for the local tour bureaus in the Yogyakarta area. He suggested that before raising ticket prices, the government should talk to stakeholders in the tourism industry sectors. Currently, the ticket fare for local tourists is set at 50,000 rupees for those over 10 years old. Children aged 3 to 10 are charged an entrance fee of 25,000. As for foreign tourists, the current price is 350,000 rupees, and children are charged 210,000 rupees. In comparison, the entrance ticket to Angkor Wat in Cambodia is up to $37 for 1 day, $62 for 3 days, and $72 for 7 days. The price of admission for the Great Wall of China runs from 54,000 rupees to 140,000 rupees. The general manager of the Borobudur Temple Tourism Park told the media that the number of visitors was quite significant during the second day of Eid, with 16,000 visitors on that day, and the first day had 6,000, almost 7,000 visitors. On Wednesday, it increased again to 27,000, and it peaked on May 5th with 31,000, and that consisted of 31,050 domestic tourists and 39 foreign tourists, not many foreign tourists. According to the general manager there, in 2020, tourist visits to Borobudur were around 900 people, and in 2021, 420 people. This figure is far below the number of visitors before the pandemic, which was 3.8 million people in 2019. 3.8 million people in 2019, is that right? Okay, there is a reason to limit the number of people. Okay, so what is the situation? The situation is that these reports are saying that Pak Luhut wants to limit the number of people coming to 1,200 per day and to raise the fees to $100 for foreign tourists and 750,000 rupees for domestic tourists and 5,000 rupees for students. And those reports say to enter Borobudur. Now, let's take a look at Pak Luhut's IG page. I'm going to skip part of this speech. You can go to his IG page and see the whole thing. He said, we also agree and plan to limit the quota of tourists who want to go up to the Borobudur Temple to 1,200 per day, with a fee of $100 for foreign tourists and 750,000 for domestic tourists. Students would charge 5,000 rupees. Notice that he says here, who want to go up to the temple. Meanwhile, he says, next sentence, meanwhile, to enter the temple area will still follow the prices that have been applied. So to get into Borobudur, into the area around the temple, the same prices, they are not going to change. If you want to climb up there, yes, there is going to be an increase, a steep increase. And from what I understand, the last few years, people haven't been allowed to go up there. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I read in social media. And then Pak Luhut says that they're doing this to preserve the rich history and heritage, and that people are going to have to use a local tour guide. And so there's a bit of misreporting or underreporting here. He said that the entrance fee is going to stay the same. If you want to go up to, if you want to climb up, then you have to pay money, a lot of money. Okay, now a couple of things here. One is that the government often puts out things like this and then waits for feedback, and then they modify what they're actually going to do. So nothing is set in stone. Remember, in Indonesia, what do? You wait and see. So there's been no official announcement on this. This is Pak Luhut saying what is going to happen, what will probably happen. It has not been set in stone. And so let's take a look at this last article, which just came out this morning, and more detailed than the other ones. Luhut, the tariff for the Borobudur Temple Stupa ride is 750,000 efforts to produce ancestral heritage. So according to this article, the Stupa area of Borobudur Temple was the government's effort to protect the world cultural heritage. According to Pak Luhut, the government pays special attention to the preservation of the archipelago's culture. Borobudur Temple is an Indonesian cultural heritage designated as a World Cultural Heritage Site by UNESCO, with reliefs that are full of meaning, especially for Buddhists and us humans. And it's important for all of us to pay special attention to preserving the historical and cultural wealth of the archipelago, he said in a written statement that came out today. So he's responding to all the criticism that came out yesterday. The limitation of the visitors quota and the increase in tariffs to go up to the Stupa area of the Borobudur Temple are the government's efforts to protect the cultural heritage. According to Pak Luhut, Borobudur Temple has various vulnerabilities and threats based on studies from various experts who provide input to the government. The conditions of the historic site is currently starting to experience weathering. Yes, no kidding. In addition, climate change, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes are also challenges in themselves. So there are a lot of things pushing on the degradation of Borobudur, and so it does need to be protected. Pak Luhut said, please check or ask the management friends there, not to mention the behavior of visitors who like to do vandalism, sliding certain objects between the temple stones, littering, and what's worse is not being able to appreciate Borobudur Temple as a Buddhist site. Good for him. These all need special handling. However, Pak Luhut said that he was aware of the concerns and inputs that have emerged from the community regarding the 750,000 rupiah tariff, which is considered too high. Responding to this, Pak Luhut said that the tariff plan had emerged at this time, but it is not final because it still needs to be discussed and decided by President Jokowi. He said, I heard a lot of public input today related to the discourse of increasing tariffs for local tourists. I'll bet there was a lot on the Instagram page. Therefore, later I asked the relevant parties to immediately review again so that the tariff can be lowered. I would like to thank everyone for their great attention to the cultural heritage of which we are all proud. However, he ensured that the planned increase in tariffs for foreign tourists to $100 would not change. Likewise, the tariffs for students remain according to the plan previously submitted, which is 5,000 rupiahs. Meanwhile, to just enter the temple area, the tariff is fixed at 50,000 rupiahs as it is today. Pak Luhut also said that his party is considering providing special tariffs for residents of Central Java and Jogja provinces. Pak Luhut said that later, all prospective tourists who want to visit Borobudur will be required to make an online reservation. And in addition to having to have a local tour guide, as I've already talked about, tourists will also be required to wear special sandals so as not to damage the stairs and building structures in the temple. Wow, this is a great idea. These sandals will be produced by residents and SMEs around the Borobudur Temple. As a nation rich in culture, he said, we certainly don't want to be seen as unable to preserve our own cultural heritage. And I've talked about that with the way that old buildings are destroyed here, and that happens unfortunately everywhere in the world. I just would like to see them preserved in my area of living and in the country that I've decided to call home. Pak Luhut ended, special treatment is needed to realize that effort. There's going to be a lot of foreigners complaining about the $100. Well, that's the way it goes. Will it be reduced? Pak Luhut said no. Will it be reduced in the future? Possibly. It would be nice to see some consideration for families, for example, to make it cheap so that foreigners could bring their families there and not go broke doing that. But I agree with limiting the number of people there. You don't want to have a lot of people fingering things, putting their hands on things, stepping on things, dropping food and other stuff around. And so I think actually this is a great plan to preserve Borobudur. Would I like to see the $100 decrease some? Yeah, sure, I would, because I'd like to go back again one day with my grandkids and visit there. It'd be nice to see it drop down some and have family prices, but we'll see how this works out. In the end, as I always say, we just have to wait and see. And so let's wrap it up for today. If you found this video helpful, useful, informative, scintillating, and non-irritating, humorous, I appreciate a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Videos are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and cooking videos on Sunday, and my wife's cooking video. The last one was last night, and you can see it right there. Okay, thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today. Stay safe, and I'll see you on Wednesday. A kind of a belated happy birthday to my wife, 61. Here we are, well, here she is, 32 years ago. It's been a long time. Okay, see you Wednesday.